Hello, hey everyone. I'm Joey Sparks, and God's mercies are new again this morning.
This morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind.
We've talked the past 2 days from John 13 about that moment when Jesus washes his disciples' feet in complete humility, taking on the role of a slave, doing the job that a slave would traditionally do, and washing their dirty feet. And it was clearly something that was unexpected and out of what the disciples thought should happen, as Peter objects to it, of course. And then it's then on the basis of this act of love and sacrifice that he tells them, you must love one another. And just as I have loved you, you must love one another. Now, before he tells them the answer, which is to love, he shows them his love. And that's a powerful reminder that love is a verb. That wonderful chapter of 1 Corinthians 13, all of those qualities of love, some 16 qualities, are all verbs. Love does or does not do these things. It's an active thing. Shows before he tells. But also notice how John opens the chapter. It was before the feast of the Passover, John 13:1, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of the world to the Father. Now, here's what's interesting, is the disciples did not know what they were about to be involved in. He'd been trying to prepare them, of course, but they did not know the extent that it would cost them to follow Jesus. So now that Jesus is preparing to leave himself, he now prepares them. So these are going to be his most excruciating hours when he gets to the cross and the trial before the cross and then the hours on the cross. And that's going to be these moments of intense suffering. And yet, in the days and the hours leading up to it all, he prepares them. How does John describe this preparation? Having loved his own who are in the world, he loved them to the end. He loved them to the end. So all the way to the very end, instead of giving himself a week to recharge himself or to withdraw away from them, no, he stayed with them, but for the purpose of loving them and thus preparing them. And so his response, knowing they were going to be caught off guard, knowing they were going to enter this time period of uncertainty, was to show his love toward them. And then he gives them the answer at the end of the chapter. This is how you're to love one another. And then he gives them all sorts of other details in the chapters that follow. Then he prays for them, chapter 17. But don't miss that it all started, this preparation for uncertainty, this preparation for a time of suffering. It started with the desire to love. He's completely unselfish, even in the most trying time of his ministry. So what's the takeaway? Takeaway is when we begin to experience moments of uncertainty, the more we can find ourselves looking outward in order to love, the more we're equipped to see people like Jesus saw people and thus respond to those moments like Jesus did. So here's the thing. Rewind 17 months ago, as we begin to hear this stuff about this virus kick up. How did we respond when we were forced to face situations we'd never faced before? Now is a good time to reflect and say, did I respond out of love? Or were there some things that I responded only out of self-preservation? Best thing we can do is to learn from it. All right, in the months that have transpired, did we catch ourselves at some points in time being too self-absorbed and too concerned about our health that we neglected love? Did we correct that? What about now? Can we look back and say, I missed some opportunities to love. Now I'm going to do better. I'm going to decide now to love. So what that means is the next time there may be a big wave of an uncertain moment, a big decision, then we can decide now, ahead of time, that we're going to respond then with love. That our first response is going to follow the actions of Jesus to love. to take on the form of a slave, to love as he loved. So when we talk the word love, we're talking about something very challenging, and that is even tested when we have these moments of uncertainty and great difficulty. Thank you so much for your time this morning. It's our prayer that God's timeless word will be on your mind all day today.
I woke up this morning